This is Live Booleans.
Yeah. I think one thing that helps fans connect with your music so well is that I found when listening to your music, there's often a lot of strong themes, motifs, and stuff like that. I'm going to have to throw in some music terminology here because that's the only reason I've been brought onto the podcast.
So, he's the music guy.
But I think it sounds like there's strong melodies, strong themes there. Is that something that you find you naturally do, or is that something you consciously try to put into everything you do?
I think both of that, actually. I think I do naturally do it. I do really try. Like for me, this is my kind of personal bugbear about music in general, in movies and games these days. Less so games, but more so movies. I kind of feel like that old massive theme thing is just kind of dying out a little bit. And I really miss that. Maybe it's just I'm an older guy and I like it the way it was. It's better in my day, etc. And the young guys don't care about it. You're young guys, so but I mean, I really miss that Darth Vader or Luke's theme or Harry Potter or whatever it is, or Back to the Future, or those great themes that you can't forget for the rest of your life, right? Like why is that dying out? Why is that not happening anymore? It just pisses me off to beyond distraction. Like I just don't understand it. I kind of feel like all this ambient stuff, and not even so much like you go see a big giant blockbuster these days. The score's massive and epic and fantastic, but it's completely unremarkable. You walk out that, you forget, you can't remember a note of it. Like I don't like that. Like I kind of feel like there's that video on YouTube somewhere where it's the guy walking around the street with a microphone saying, "Can you sing me Harry Potter? Can you sing me Star Wars? Can you sing me Indiana Jones?" And then he goes, "Can you sing me Spider-Man?" No. Can you sing me? Any of the big Marvel franchises, no one can remember enough of it. Like that Marvel franchise is $1 billion gigantic behemoth, and you can't remember a big note of the themes. Like that's disgraceful. Apart from, I will say, I think the Avengers theme tune is super strong.
It is.
And why is that? Because it's Alan Silvestri, he's an old school composer. Did Back to the Future and God knows everything else, and knows how to write a bloody good tune. Like why? Why is that? If it was Marvel, I'd be like, you need a great theme for every single bloody character on this. Why isn't it there? So that really does piss me off. And funny enough, there's a director over here called Jordan Vogt Vogt, and I forgot his last name. I can't remember why. I'm just completely blank. And he did that movie, King Kong, Skull Island. It's a big director. And we kind of made friends a little bit on Twitter. And I've just exchanged a message with him saying, "Oh, by the way, love your movies, etc." And he was just sort of saying, he sort of said, "Yeah, nice to, I'm a big fan, etc." Kind of thing. He sort of said, "Why are the tunes in movies not like are in video games?" I said, "Christ, I really don't know why." He's a young director, 30-something on the way up. He's making big movies now. Yeah. He's the director on the Metal Gear Solid movie. So it's so nice to hear people like that who are going to be the stars of tomorrow, or even so much these years already, like talk like that. Because I'm sick and tired of not hearing bloody tunes in movies. Why is that? Why? I don't understand it. And I kind of feel like it's hip to maybe not do it in directors, right? But the average man, I believe the average man on the street, or woman on the street, who's gone to see, when you're walking out the theatre, watching a movie, you're humming the tune to yourself as you go out the door, it's bringing the movie back to you, all the bits that you remembered, it all comes back. Like, for God's sake, why would you want to do that?
It's a good point. I mean, I may be wrong with this, but I feel like there's more of an emphasis on the actual sound design now, even in music, rather than the core melodies and stuff like that. And I'm hearing that in pop music as well, kind of across the board. I think it's definitely since electronic digital audio workstations have become so accessible and everything. You can make any sound in the world. Possibly people are exploring that at the moment.
So you're saying it's more like formulaic or something?
Not formulaic. It's more about. I find this when I'm working with clients that often I'll get feedback based on the sounds that I use, like instruments I choose and things like that, rather than melodies, specific things like that. Which isn't good or bad, but it's definitely a trend that people seem to be exploring at the moment. But I think you're completely right, Grant. It's so important that we don't forget, how powerful motifs and themes can be, because they really can be so emotionally powerful.
And also, I do feel like because everything's so powerful these days, you can put one thing on the keyboard with a synth patch and it sounds amazing by itself, right? Like when I started, you couldn't do that. You could do it, but you couldn't put it in the game because you had no space, right? So a lot of the guys that I know from back then know how to write a good tune. That's all you had. You had to have a decent set of chords, a decent tune, and cross your fingers and hope for the best, right? That was all you had, right? So I kind of feel like it's too easy to create something that sounds unbelievable, but there's no substance to it. It's like, it's just superficial. So I just feel like that that's how, in some respects, half the problem. You can make something sound fantastic without really doing anything.
Do you think the limitation then almost incentivized you to have to write just good, short, concise, music that is memorable, as opposed to now, like you mentioned, you can create anything. It can be. You have no limitations. Do you think that played a part in having that iconic sound back then as well?
No, I do. I think it makes you be more creative. You've got to think outside the box, and I hate that phrase, but you've got to. It's like you've got to work with what you've got. There's no, like when I did my first game on the Game Boy, you got 3 channels and a noise channel, and each channel plays 1 note each, and that's it. It's monophonic. So like you have a note for the melody, a note that implies a harmony, a note for the bass, and then the 4 channels like just noises for effects and like drum noises, like So, and when I first did that, I thought, oh god, I'm going to hate this, but I really enjoyed it in the end. Because it makes you try to get stuff out the thing that you didn't know it could do. And so I really feel like I really value those days of me writing that stuff. Because, I feel like it's cemented like that melody making melodies in my head forevermore, So I truly believe that melody is going to make a big return. I feel like the older directors who are perhaps thinking along those, the newer guys are like big video games players, like they all are. Who are all, listen to Zelda, listen to all those great tunes that you can remember. Like there's so much great melody writing especially Nintendo, but like everywhere, like people really like that. And like you go to video games concerts now and they're sold out and all that stuff, like, because they like the bloody tunes, right? How many times is there an ambient track at number 1? I don't think there's ever been an ambient, Lady Gaga doesn't write ambient. Yeah. She writes bloody good melodies with catchy tunes, or Ariana Grande, or any of these pop stars, Well, I'm not so much her, but like, a lot of the people that write a really good tune that's got hook to it, and everyone's right down the street singing it to themselves when they go to work in the morning, Like,
I think we're going to have to interview Brian Eno after this and see what he says about that.
Like, I'm not saying you want wall-to-wall melody by any means, but Star Wars would be half the movie without those themes.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones would be half the movie without those themes. The Avengers would be half the movie without Alan Silvestri's themes. Like, they contribute such a lot, and it's just like sometimes I'm doing any movie. I've work on some movies from time to time. You sometimes get the director saying that kind of detracts from the scene. I'm a bit like, look, if the music detracts from the bloody scene, you need to write a better scene, mate.
Yeah.
It's like it's just a tune, right? If it's distracting from the action, for God's sake, people are daft. They're watching it. They're not forgot. Anyway, I guess it's my personal bee in my personal bonnet.
That's when you lose the job on the on the film.
See, I'll take the melody out. Don't worry.
Yeah. Maybe that's another aspect of what it is. It's that it's now easier for anyone to become a director. So like, because you mentioned Star Wars wouldn't be it without the music, and then like you hear that George Lucas during the first movie didn't want original music. He was just going to go with orchestral pieces that already exist, and then I don't know if it's his wife or someone on the set was just like, are you mad? Like, this is your chance to make something. So that's an example of he was surrounded by the right people at the right time to say, no, you need to do this. So maybe because it's easier to be a director now, I mean, everyone carries a camera in their pocket. Not saying they're making blockbusters on iPhones, but all that knowledge is getting pushed by the wayside because they're going after their vision and they're not letting in outside thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible to make a great movie without great music. It's completely possible. Of course it is. But I just feel like it adds such a lot on top if you get that right. Just think of the really great movies that they've all got great tunes, right? I mean, they just are. Like the real greats, whatever they are, like they've all got great bloody tunes. Like
as soon as you think Back to the Future, there's just the tune straight ahead.
I was going to bring that up too because I rewatched it again actually. So our local drive-in movie cinema could have opened for like one day during the whole COVID lockdown or whatever it was, and they showed Back to the Future. Yeah. And listening to that again, I realized there was a thing every time Marty shows the picture where his family members they've got like the chimes or whatever they play.
Yeah.
And it's like you don't even notice that first watch, but it's that whole thematic thing again. Yeah, it really adds to it.
Yeah, it's that little kind of C major, F sharp major, it's that tritone thing, right? It's not that key, but it's that what it is. I nicked that from Banjo-Kazooie, but I mean, I feel like those little bits, they're just spectacularly good, right? They just make you go, it's a magic in it, isn't it? It's magical. Like,
Yeah, so much.
Like, you know, I'm a massive John Williams fan, I know, but I mean, like Harry Potter, like you only got to hear da, 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 and you hear that, that's it. That's it. Like, you know, you are straight away. Like, why is that not done? You know,
I get that with the trill in Click Clock Wood. Every time I will hear that in my head. That is my safe space. That song.
I don't put myself quite in the same bracket as John Williams, but it's nice to hear.